Welcome back to Catholic Lunch Break on AM 1430. This is Wyatt Goolsby, the executive director of this radio station, KSHJ. And this, of course, is the weekly program where we catch up with all things Catholic in the greater Houston area. So much in our secular society is focused on money. If you go into business, everyone is talking about money, but often wisdom isn't emphasized, much less the wisdom of the church. Well, our next guest has been working to turn that around. Joining me here in the studio is Henry Kutarna. He is the founder of the Catholic CEO. He's also a mentor and consultant for a lot of different businesses as well as business heads as well. Henry, thank you so much for coming into the studio. Appreciate your time.
Welcome. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Sure. I know you yourself are based in Vancouver in Canada, but you're here visiting family in the Sugar Land area, so we appreciate your taking the time. You've been spending several months there. I guess with your job in being a consultant and talking with a lot of different people across this country and in Canada, you're able to do a lot of remote work where you're able to spend time with family here in the Houston area and still be able to do your job.
You know, a few years ago when we started the Catholic CEO, we discovered that that's how it would work. And so now we have clients, in Canada, U.S., Europe, Australia, New Zealand. And so they're able to do business with us, and they can get the benefit of some of our input in their businesses. So it's a wonderful thing, really.
Very, very good. And shout out to your family, by the way. Your daughter is Alexis Kutarna, of course, over at Cathedral High School, which we're friends with. And, of course, her husband is Jim Yeager, who helps you in running this organization, the Catholic CEO.
Yes, the Catholic CEO is actually headquartered in Sugar Land, Texas, and it's Jim is our CEO. And as we sometimes joke, Jim is the CEO and I am the Catholic CEO. So it's yes, we're very happy to be here, and we've been in business for about 4 years now.
Very good. So tell me about the mission of the Catholic CEO. Why did you found it? Why do you think this is something that was needed?
Well, the mission is to help Catholics either to grow their business according to Catholic principles, or if they're not in business, to help transition them into a business. And so mainly, if you could look at it this way, we believe that you can be Catholic, fully Catholic, and successful in business. And that means you have to do things a certain way, yes, but that's our belief. You can do both. You can be fully Catholic, adhere to all the principles of the faith, but also run a successful business.
Now, that seems logical to me because I'm a practicing Catholic. Many of us who are listening to this program, that makes sense to live based on your values. But it feels like in our secular society, that's under attack. They say, no way. If you try to live your Catholic values, you won't make enough money. You won't be as profitable. You won't be able to beat out your competitors.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people think. And so we're here to say to people, you can do good marketing, for example. You can be a great marketer, but you would be creative and fun and intelligent in your marketing, pointing out the merits of your products, but you wouldn't exploit people. You wouldn't use the wrong kind of imagery. You wouldn't use things that would be against the faith. And you can still be doing that and be very successful in business. That's one example. We also tell people that, for example, on financials, you can be profitable and still adhere to Catholic principles. You can do things like you can be more generous to your employees. You can do more than the minimum the law requires, for example, on how you treat employees. And if you do that, you can be Catholic and you can fully follow the tenets of the faith, but also be a successful business person. And then you can build your surplus and your profit and your wealth, yes, but then, of course, you would tithe or you would be more generous charitably with your proceeds of your business. So it's possible to do it. And we show people how to do this because they have to be sharper and smarter in business. They have to be more careful with their metrics. They have to be more careful in how they manage things and how they control their pricing and their products and their margins and all of that. So it's possible to do. And one of the great things that we've experienced is that we can show people how to do this. And sometimes they don't believe it at first, but generally speaking, they find out that it's possible.
Does that also have an attraction to potential employees? I mean, once they know that you're based on values, that you have this foundation that's solid, that you're sticking to, that seems that would be a very attractive idea.
It is. We hear stories all the time of people who come and they say, look, this place is, founded on biblical principles, for example, or, they pay me slightly above market, 1% above market, but at least they're doing that. They're not gouging me. They're trying to be fair to me. And if I have a family emergency, well, they are tolerant about that. They still expect the work to be done to a high quality standard, but they will allow us to, come in late once in a while if we have an emergency or we have to take the children to school or something like that. So we're finding that this is possible. The other thing is there's a trust factor. People want a good, positive workplace. And so employees who come to work for businesses that believe in the same principles we do will find that there's a trust factor. They will be able to realize that they're not going to be exploited. They're not going to be capriciously, turfed for something. It's going to be clear that what the standards are, yes, and they're going to be professional standards of the highest type, but they're not going to be sort of subject to the whims of a company, which are so often the stories. We've all heard about toxic workplaces. Well, yeah. A Catholic business done properly will never be a toxic workplace. It will always be a positive environment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely needed in this day and age, is having that environment where people can work and also feel free to express themselves in many cases based on their faith.
And exactly that. So we propose to people that when you're dealing with your employees, you should seek their input. Yes, you may be the inventor of a certain project or a product or a technology, but your employees are the ones that are selling to the customers. They have the feel of what the customer wants. They know how your product goes together. They know how your technology actually works. Mm-hmm. And so if you listen to your employees, it sounds trite, it sounds simplistic, doesn't it? But you'd be amazed how many people don't do it in business. When the Catholic business owner follows Catholic principles, he will seek the input of his employees. Even though he's the boss, he's still the leader. He or she still runs the corporation according to their principles. But the idea of having input from employees is so well known among Catholic businesses that it's a wonder that others don't do it.
Well, it's not just getting feedback from employees, it's actually listening to them, because I know every company has, here's the survey,
exactly,
the internal survey or customer survey, and often it feels like it just goes into the ether. You fill out something online and you never hear about it ever again.
Yeah.
So it feels like a little bit more feedback and talking really can go a long way.
Yeah. I have an example that I could mention to your listeners. The error rate in a company of, let's say, a production process, your bottling line or something like that. Well, employees know very well what causes errors. They know whether it's a flaw in the production process or it's a flaw in the product itself or in the machinery, the equipment. And often they're told, just be quiet and don't say anything. Just do your job. Well, if you seek input from people, they will be able to give you insights as an owner that you can't have, because no boss, no owner of a business can see it all, especially if once you get up maybe beyond 10 or 15 or 20 employees. If you're in hundreds of employees, you can't possibly know everything about your business. And so you find that input in a formal way is so very important.
Henry, when you consult and talk with business owners or entrepreneurs, what do you think is the biggest mental hurdle for them to really being able to live out and have that foundation of the Catholic values in their business, in what they're trying to manage and accomplish, that may take a little bit of practice to really get through mentally?
Well, one of them is just simply lack of knowledge. Some people have the intention to do good work as a Catholic business owner, but it may be a startup, or they may be at an early stage, or they may have worked on a technology and it's just new in the marketplace. And so they don't actually know how to do, how to take your sales cycle, for example, and shorten it and tighten it up and do all the proper things to get some sales process that's more effective. So that's one of the mental kind of hurdles, I think. And another one, honestly, is there's a thing that we see quite a bit of, actually. I call it procrastination. We're subject in our society, I think, we have an easy life in so many ways, compared to historically, you could say. And so I find that some people just suffer from procrastination. They just don't get up and do it. And so sometimes our work is about motivating people, just to say, here's how you get over procrastination. Here's how you practice the virtue of, being industrious and focusing on your task. And so we try to portray it as a virtue rather than as a good business habit, which it is. But of course, it's a virtue to be industrious and to focus on your work because of the dignity of work.
As I mentioned, you founded the Catholic CEO with that mission to give glory to God. I want to ask you, Henry, about your own personal faith. Have you always been Catholic? Have you always been practicing?
I have always been Catholic. I was raised in a traditional Catholic family, large Polish immigrant family in Canada, and each family had 5 or 6 children, and so we grew up in a neighborhood where, if we would go, let's say, go swimming some evening, somebody would say, "Let's go swimming." There'd be 15 kids. And we'd all jump in the back of a pickup truck and sit in the back of a pickup truck, which I think is illegal now, isn't it, or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, and so we would go swimming. So yes, and we went to Mass frequently, not just Sundays but daily. We served Mass. My mother was the organist at the parish. My sisters were in the choir. My brother and I served Mass. We went to all the devotions and so on. Later in life, I can say there was a time when I still went to Mass, but I think I didn't practice the faith in a way that I would today. And so now, of course, I'm very serious about it. And at my stage of life, I'm thinking ahead to what's the reality of that moment when I'm standing in front of our Lord and counting from our life,
Sure, and it's something, no matter what person's age is, they can always be thinking about that.
Absolutely.
Their own relationship with God and improving that, which is a great way to close out our conversation, is to being able to think about how people can improve their own relationship through prayer. Henry, give me the website for the Catholic CEO before we go.
It's www.thecatholicCEO.com. That's where you can find everything about us.
Very easy, thecatholicCEO.com. And go on there, learn more about the kinds of mentorship that you do, the kinds of work that you do with entrepreneurs, business owners, and whatnot. Henry Kutarna, founder of the Catholic CEO, thank you so much for coming by and being here in our Houston studio.
Thanks very much for inviting me. God bless you and your listeners.
Very good. And we hope that all of you will have a blessed week here on this week of the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We thank you so much for joining us here for Catholic Lunch Break. We appreciate your continued support of our media ministry, the Guadalupe Radio Network. We'll be back next week to talk with more Catholics here who are practicing their faith in the greater Houston area. Until next time, stay Catholic, Houston.